Hi, this is Matt Donegan of Challenger Stories. I'm here with George. George is the founder of Veraco and a healthcare infection control manufacturer. George, what do you manufacture?
Thanks, Matt, and nice to be here. So Veraco is a manufacturer and developer and supplier of innovative infection control products, primarily within the healthcare market. We are funded as well and run numerous projects to deliver disruptive products and technologies into the marketplace. One in particular that we've launched recently is a product called HyGe, which is an eco-smart dispenser that is there to replace single-use plastic wipes, commonly used across the healthcare market. All traditional wipes are made with plastic, and it's really bad for the environment. And what we have is a plant-based alternative to that, and it's really disrupting the industry. We officially launched it in October last year, and it's been a huge success.
Okay, so what's the name of the product again?
HyGe.
Right, and that is doing, so that's, you're looking at this as really disrupting the marketplace at the moment. This is about sustainability. Obviously, there's a hygiene aspect to it. Are you starting to see adoption for the product in your marketplace?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we initially launched it into the dental market. They use on average around per surgery 100 wipes a day, and on average in a year, that's around 75,000 wipes a year. They get incinerated because it goes into chemical waste, and obviously when it gets incinerated, you're burning plastics and it's really bad for the environment. We've launched what I said at HyGe, which is an eco-smart dispenser, which uniquely, and the first of its kind, has two functions, all contactless, and it has a left sensor, which is for a dry wipe, and a right sensor, which then has a wet wipe for clinical cleaning and disinfecting. And that is just used with one paper towel roll, which is plant-based cellulose, and a fluid tank at the bottom. So as it's dispensed, it will coat the perfect amount of fluid onto the wipe, giving you a perfectly saturated wipe every time. And when it gets incinerated, it's plant-based. So we've done an LCA, which is kind of a third-party LCA, which is a life cycle assessment. This is like cradle-to-grave methodology, and it's come back with an 84% reduction in carbon emissions in comparison to traditional plastic-based wipes. So yeah, huge step in the right direction. It's like there's no product like this in the market, and it's been a crazy year since we launched it officially in October.
I love hearing about new products that are disrupting the market, and I even more love to hear about new products that are disrupting the market and are good for the planet. So you're doing all three. So thank you very much. I find it really exciting. Why did you develop the products in the first place? What was the inspiration?
So we're always challenging ourselves as innovators within ourselves. What gets us out of bed in the morning is to deliver and to create something that's groundbreaking and new. It's just a huge problem within healthcare inherently, plastic-based wipes. So we wanted to do something about it, but we also have this formula now of launching new products, which has happened through launching products that didn't work over the years. Is basically it's got to be a win-win-win scenario for us moving forward. It's got to not only be a more sustainable alternative to what currently exists, it's got to be better in some USP, it's got to perform better or be better in some form, but it's also got to be a cost saving. So it's got to be a win-win-win. Using that kind of formula, we won't launch anything unless it does that. That's been our groundbreaking kind of change and mentality of kind of launching new products. Time and time again, you see, this product is amazing, it's going to do this, but actually, it's just the bottom line for the company buying it is just increased. So we've got to somehow justify, especially more often than not, greener products are more expensive. But ours is HyGe is a greener but also cheaper alternative to plastic wipes. So it's a complete win-win scenario.
Love it. New product, great marketplace, and a great philosophy about what makes a great product in that marketplace. Not just on price, all product. It's all aspects. Loving that. So that's what made you bring the product to market in the first place. Why did you start the company?
So, believe it or not, this was actually initially let's start again. So, initially, this was a business that formed during the pandemic. And my business partner now, he had a business pre-pandemic that was manufacturing furniture, and it was using a kind of a different method. It was using a single block foam to create unique furniture, but was coating it in a certain technology called antimicrobial, which was there to kind of increased its lifespan, make it more durable. But it also had other benefits to healthcare, which is it inhibits the growth of microbes on the surface, making it a more hygienic and cleaner space. And then when the pandemic hit, there was an opportunity that we could use the same technology, if you like, or the same concept to protect touch points that we constantly touch during the day, doors, push plates. And in between cleaning, there's a risk. And that's how that happened. We didn't know whether it was going to take off. Here we are 5.5 years later. I think it's 5.5 years later. And we've evolved immensely. We still make those products. We've done lots of clinical testing. We worked with the NHS on them, but obviously, that gave us the platform to continue to innovate and do something different. And every year we develop new products and increase the range and improve the range. And like I said, this one is no different.
Excellent. Okay. I think you can be described as an entrepreneur. So you don't seem to fall into that kind of background of going through what you might call a kind of standard education, getting a degree, coming out, getting a job in the city, which is, we see this sometimes, or becoming a technician or an engineer and then deciding you want to start your own company. Would it be fair to say that perhaps you've had a slightly more unusual journey?
Yes, yeah, you could say that. I mean, I certainly haven't had a linear progression, but I don't think anyone really does to a degree. I think mine was just probably a little bit more volatile. But yeah, I would say I've always been entrepreneurial without even knowing what that word was at the time. And even if I look back at my schooling days, high school, I was awful, academically nowhere. And I think most of that, really, if I'm honest, is that I just didn't get it. I kept challenging my teachers as to kind of, why do I need to learn this? Put this in a real world scenario when I leave here. How am I applying this to that? And, education is probably a bit different now than it was. I mean, we're talking a long time ago, but it was very much you follow the rule, you just do this, and then you pass and move on. It wasn't really setting me up for life, and I think that was the dissociation of what I'm learning to what I'll get at the end of it was something I just couldn't understand. As soon as you're in my scenario anyway, as soon as I was challenging, I was put into a kind of a side and left in with this, and that was it. They just didn't really care, and they just let me coast. Other people around me were very academic and doing really well and getting all their grades. I think I ended up with pretty much one GCSE. I went to A levels, failed my AS, my first year of A levels, AS levels. I think I've got 2 U's. I think I've got them wiped off the system now, though, because I think if you get 2 U's, you're allowed to wipe them off the records. But then, things changed. I was very creative as a kid. Music was in my blood. My family were musicians. I was classically trained pianist. I played the cello. I played guitar. I wrote music, and that kind of mindset is entrepreneurial. But that creative mindset, when I was studying at high school and college, just I didn't really care. So that all they cared was that I just did math, English, science. Yeah. Are good subjects to learn, but in that moment, it just didn't sink in for me, and I was too busy trying to make money at school. I used to get off the bus just before school. I packed 2 packets of sweets for I think it was £1 and sell each one for 20p. Come out at the end of the week with profit. That's what excited me more than going to lessons. Anyway, it was I was probably entrepreneurial before I even knew the word what the word entrepreneurial meant. And I just wish that I think at school, in the high school days, and it may be different now, there's a little bit more focus of setting you up for life rather than just getting you to a point where you pass that you can go to college and then letting college and university set you up for life, because they don't.
Okay.
So anyway, college. After that, managed to get into college, did really well, all changed. I went to more of a music-focused college, and suddenly people started to believed that I had something to give, and I academically peaked at that point. And then went to university, got a first, and did my dissertation on education, which was ironic. And then left university with a. I left university with a first, but it was in music technology, which didn't really give me a massive breakthrough into the world. Luckily, I very much just networked all the way through my degree, and I think if I look at education, which let's get into a huge debate, but I see a lot of it is it doesn't give you enough of a return, but what it does give you is a network of people.
Yeah.
And that network of people are very valuable. Had I not have had a great relationship with my lecturers who could see how hard I was working, they wouldn't have introduced me to my first boss in work. And that was what gave me, it was a gateway, it was a stepping stone. It wasn't the degree, that actually having that degree didn't get me the job, it was actually having a relationship with the lecturer that got me the job, really. And yes, obviously you're hard and
right. So it's been said by some that the people who get A's and B's at A levels are often the people who end up working for the people who've got D's and E's at A levels. So you concur with that message, would you?
Yeah, I think there's certainly a trend with it. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Not to do disjustice of anyone who's done obviously incredibly well in their schooling and education, but yeah, I would say I think some people are just very misunderstood at school, and I don't think there's quite enough support for those.
Yeah. There's a very high number of business owners that are classed as neurodivergent. What you just described to me just now, it sounds more that your focus or your understanding and your intellect was driven more by creativity, and that's certainly been brought into business. So you're developing products, you've seen something in the marketplace that isn't being served, you've learned about the materials that are going to be able to deliver that, and you've seen the opportunity in that marketplace. That requires creativity. That's not an engineering feat, although it does require engineering. That's a creative aspect. Do you think that world of music helped you in that respect?
Massively. And I tell you what was really interesting is that when I did up to, I think it was grade 6 or 7 in piano, so nearly right at the top. And you have a sheet music, which is your score that you follow in your exam. And I had it open in front of me, but not once did I look at it.
Yeah.
Because it was all up here, and I was always getting told off by being too creative with the score and the script. I've got to follow it letter by letter, or note by note. And it was very evident that I could play music creatively, but I couldn't play it if I was reading it note by note. It was very much a creative mindset. But yeah, 100%. And I'm lucky that I was thrown into music at such a young age.
Yeah, I get that. And I think anybody who launches a business or has a business that does something that is looking to disrupt the market requires an understanding of the creative process and has to have a vision, and that vision doesn't exist in the current paradigm. So by definition, it is creative, right? It is something which you're drawing out of your mind that doesn't exist. It's got to be delivered, created, conceptualized and brought to market even before the product even exists in the first place. What do you think is the biggest challenge in bringing a product to market? And it's a really disruptive product as well. What's the big challenge for you there?
I mean, that's a great question, and there are so many answers to that one. There are so many challenges. Whether you've launched the product at the right time is a big challenge. It's a challenge of, are they ready to adopt something from number one? I mean, that's there's a risk to that. You could spend all the time and money in developing a product, get it out there, and it's probably a year too early, and probably actually being first to market is not the right time. You want to be second to market. So yeah, there is also an element of that. I mean, it depends on so many fronts. There are so many challenges to launching any, not just product, service, anything, but having the right team around you is going to be critical to the success of launching anything. But being driven enough to know that, or not driven enough, being resilient enough to know that it's not going to happen overnight, and being prepared for that. You've got to be prepared, and you cannot just assume that you're going to launch and within 3 months it's going to be going to be good. And there's going to be ups and downs and peaks and troughs with launching a new business and navigate new products, and navigating that is going to be challenging.
Do you think when you're launching a new product, do you think you need a blinkered view of the world or a focused view of the world? So what I mean by that is sometimes when you have a massive belief in a product, but you don't have product market fit, you haven't got validation, you're kind of there on a hunch. You might have done market research, but then market research often doesn't tell you the real truth. What people say and what people do are different things. So what's your view on that?
I think you need a bit of both. That doesn't really help. So I think if I'm being totally honest, I'm just trying to feel back to it. I think there's two approaches to it really. You've got to believe in your gut and your hunch that what you're launching is right, and you've got to have belief, and you've got to be strong in your belief, not just to yourself but to the team around who are also working hard to launch the product. But before launching it, there are the core people around you. So I'm lucky I have a business partner, and he thinks slightly differently to me. I'm a little bit, on side, and he's a little bit more of a realist, where he's, bringing it back, looking at numbers. And I'm more kind of the other side, where I'm thinking, but look where we could be. And I think having that balance and that constant debate, and debate all the time, is key. And not just to rely on hunches. I think it's important. If you don't have a hunch and you don't follow your gut, I don't think you'll ever do anything. You've got to be brave and you've got to take risks. But I think there is a point where, depending on how much you're risking, money being the critical part here is, whenever we launch anything, we spend 3 months in basically UX. So we get a prototype product, we put it into the market, we get enough insight from X amount of people that we need in order to justify a decision. A lot of it's done on data. We really get as much out of it as possible, and then we make a conscious decision as to whether or not there's enough information for us to invest in working on this more, and building a team around it. Because we'll be running 10 products a year, and one of them will actually come into fruition, for example. But we're running 10 other projects, and we're looking at what the next one is going to be. But they have to go through a process first, because we've learned the hard way of purely based on just, this is a great product, we're going to launch it now. Not getting enough information back from the people who are ultimately going to buy.
Yeah. So it's about having vision, but also having data, I guess.
I think you need vision. You need to know where the product or where X can go, but you need to also know how to get there, as well. And I think they're almost two different mindsets. Yeah,
okay, fair enough. Is there, in bringing a new product to market, what do you think are the three most important aspects that you need to consider?
Proof of concept, proof of business, and then proof of scale.
Nice. Very succinct answer. I like that a lot. That was very on point. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Okay. So that's about bringing the product to market. Is there anything you would have done differently?
Lots.
Name one.
You know what? No, actually, I don't. Well, yes, it depends. Let me put phases in my head. So I wouldn't be here today if I hadn't have made the mistakes in the past. I'm a much better all-round person because of those. So in many ways, no, there isn't anything that I would do differently. Hindsight is a wonderful thing. Yeah, there may be many products that I wouldn't have launched in the past, but they were all a pathway to where we are today. And the business today is the best it's ever been. And in its 5.5 years of hard work and graft, we are seeing the benefits of our determination, our resilience as a group to challenge the status quo and to try and make a living and scale.
Yeah. Well, you've got the potential for scale, most definitely, because when I think about the size of the marketplace, and it's a global marketplace, then just getting in your kind of local marketplace, let alone the global marketplace, will give you a degree of pretty impressive scale. You get it into the global marketplace, of course, it's a complete different. It's a game changer, right? So that's really interesting. So in terms of the challenges of the business, what are the biggest challenges you've got coming up at the moment? What's keeping you awake at night?
We're kind of in this tipping point, really, where we've recently, last year we raised seed investment, which is the first time we've raised investment. We brought in some key people within our team as well, some key hires. And we're kind of in this tipping point where we're moving from a small business to a medium business, and that is a big jump. And I'm still wearing many hats as our view of the team as well. And as we have become busier, those distractions have become bigger and more consistent. So, there's an element of looking after the now, but not neglecting the future. And it's a distraction on my part that I'm so, for me personally, so in the now and not looking ahead into the future and not having enough time to have a look at the future, mental time as well, not just physical time, but mentally having the ability to be able to take a step back and think, we've got a very clear 12-month plan, but what's 3 years look like? They're the key bits that for me, that we've been kind of in the middle of this launch of a new product that we knew we were going to get very much hands-on and get it right and into a point where we can then hand it over. That.
Listen, generally challenges come up in kind of 3 silos: time, team, and money.
Yeah.
And time, are you focused on the right things? It's more resource actually than time, but usually it's focused around time because it's the one thing that you can't get any more of. So it's focused on the right thing. Are your team there? Are they the right team to develop the product? Because what got you here won't necessarily get you there. Are they aligned? Are they managing effectively leadership capacity inside the business, or are the business founders the only leader, which is another challenge? And then that usually comes down to what the business is capable of generating. So that's most businesses. Their challenges around time, team, and money, and it's variation of those 3, and then nuanced, of course. Yeah. So look, final question from me, and that is, I'm an avid reader. I listen to a lot of books, listen to a lot of podcasts. What are you listening to? What are you watching? Or what are you viewing, if that's the right word? And any books that you'd particularly like to pass along?
It's a good question. I would say from a podcast, if we're talking business as a focus, I would say High Performance by Jake Humphries. I think that's a great podcast of getting into the mindset of high performance, really, of delivering. Because it's nice is that it blends the what it takes to be an athlete, what it takes to be, and it's not just business leaders or CEOs. It's really individuals who are delivering the best versions of themselves and how they do it and the mindset to that, and it's good for inspiration.
Yeah.
Books wise, it was a little while ago, but I read the Bob Iger Ride of a Lifetime book, which was his evolution from pretty much nothing to the CEO of Disney, and it was fascinating read and kind of understanding. Really, I didn't know as that much about it, but it was good guidance, management, leadership guidance in that book. Some great sound bites, how he negotiated, how he dealt with certain challenges and situations, which were, it was a good read. And then I think one more recently that's kind of really helped, I don't know, give me a little bit of like, those sparks of, oh yes, you're right, we should do this, is the Alex Hormozi, really a lot of Alex Hormozi in parts. Not everyone is perfect, but he's done a few great bits of just little sound bites that have really inspired me. There's one of I think it's in $100 million leads or something. Is the audio book, and it was something. And this is what actually stemmed our formula that I was mentioning about before, which was creating an offer so good it would be stupid to say no to. As the kind of the idea of that, and just understand, just other people. It's very easy to just get so sucked into day to day. Nice that other people are out there, kind of just throwing sound bites that get you to think differently and outside the box.
Yeah,
you can feel very trapped in your own day to day.
Yeah, absolutely. So Alex Hormozi's $100 million deals, and he's also got $100 million leads. And the premise of having an offer, that's, I believe, in deals.
Yeah.
That having an offer that's so good you'd be stupid to say not to is absolutely brilliant. You're so right. We have an annual event called BizX, and we also had Daniel Priestley there, and the other chap that was there this year was Gary Vaynerchuk. And listen to what's coming out of those guys' mouths, and of course Brad Sugars from Action Coach, who's pretty special on sales as well. Alex Hormozy's right up there amongst those guys. So yeah, really, really great tip. Very enjoyable book. Very cheeky in the Hormozy book when he says, so you need to listen to this and you need to read it at the same time. So he's getting you to buy the audio book and buy the book.
Yeah,
Smart stuff. There's a man who knows how to sell. So listen, George, thank you so much. It's been fascinating hearing about your particular journey. You definitely encapsulate a challenger. You've got a challenger product. You're bringing a disruptive new product to market. The way that you think is challenging. And you obviously love the challenge. Look, thanks so much, George. It's been wonderful to spend time with you today. Fascinated to hear about how this product's going to take off. You could have a global sector-defining product. I mean, it would be so exciting. So congratulations on that. Love to keep in contact. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Matt.
Bye-bye.